Super Mario Galaxy, the game where you shoot through the blackness of outer space, traverse the most atmospheric locations in Mario history, the game that's created one of the biggest nostalgic communities, and is so renowned that it's getting its own feature-length film coming next year. With all this being said, one can easily see just how influential Super Mario Galaxy has been. But all this made me think, how influential has Super Mario Galaxy actually been? If you remove the game from the Mario franchise, is the difference emotional attachment or actual franchise changes? There are most definitely things that Super Mario Galaxy influenced, but what things in particular? Is the game a huge leap for the gaming community, or is it just nostalgia speaking? You'll have to wait to the end of the video to find out. For some background, Super Mario Galaxy was released on the Nintendo Wii on November 1st, 2007. It was the third 3D game in the Super Mario platforming series, garnering praise from players and Mario fans and a near-perfect score from gaming critics. The game sold 12.8 million copies, making it a bigger success than Super Mario 64. But when you compare it to the initial console it was released on, you'll see that Super Mario 64 actually sold a third of its initial console, while Super Mario Galaxy only sold a tenth, making Super Mario Galaxy less of an influence over its main console sales. But nevertheless, 12 million copies is still a large margin compared to the Wii's diverse lineup of games, which is why I'll add these as contenders for the list. Now we're getting to the things that you probably knew had an impact of the time. Super Mario Galaxy's gravity-breaking gameplay. Super Mario 64 pushed the limits on what a 3D game could be, and Super Mario Galaxy pushed that limit even further. People had never seen anything like this before, so it's quite obvious that the gameplay alone was influential over how 3D games could be played. Name a game that allows you to traverse a planet released before 2007. If there is one, is it the method by which you traverse the majority of the game? So yeah, we've established that Super Mario Galaxy's movement was revolutionary for its time, but does that mean it had an influence on gaming outside of exceeding expectations? There's a difference between a game having an influence on gamers than having an influence on gaming. They are both contenders for the list, so it makes sense to go through both sides of it. Now if I asked you to name a game that allows you to traverse a planet after 2007, would you be able to name any of those either? There are still some games that took inspiration from Super Mario Galaxy, namely Super Mario Galaxy 2, but looking outside of the Mario franchise, the only other game I could think of would be 2013's Sonic Lost World, a not as well received Sonic game that most people dubbed Sonic Galaxy after its pretty blatant use of ideas presented in the Mario Galaxy games. So as we've seen, Super Mario Galaxy didn't have a whole lot of influence on other video games. But a game doesn't have to impact outside video games to be called influential, because going back to the Mario franchise, you'll see bits and pieces of Mario Galaxy all around. Take Super Mario Odyssey for example. The Moon Kingdoms provide a much more realistic look into Super Mario Galaxy, fitted for Super Mario Odyssey's controls. There's multiple 2D levels that include walking around on circular planets. The main theme for the Moon Kingdom is literally a remixed version of the Star Appears theme from Super Mario Galaxy. The creators could have just had the game end at Bowser's Castle, but they decided to take some influence from Super Mario Galaxy and make the final Bowser battle and main climax take place in outer space. And I have yet to mention Super Mario 3D World. All of the final worlds in that game go increasingly more and more into the blackness of space, literally taking enemies, objects, and even Lumas from Super Mario Galaxy and putting them into these final worlds. This is a complete reference and throwback to Super Mario Galaxy, which is why I'm putting it as a major contender for our list. Now we won't get to nostalgia just yet. There are still some minor, albeit informative impacts that Super Mario Galaxy obtained, such as the motion controls present in the game. Super Mario Galaxy definitely did not pioneer the motion control concept, nor did it even popularize the idea, but it did show the capabilities of using it in a platformer game. Wii Sports was the game that made motion controls a household name, mainly because it allows you to physicalize the motion of doing sports from the comfort of your own home. But when it came to Super Mario Galaxy, the game combined the use of motion controls and the already existing control setup to form a bond of both motion and precision. You might think that this by itself is a pretty uninformative topic, but just look what came after it. Have you really studied the way motion controls are baked into Super Mario Odyssey? Cappy and all of his diverse actions share a resemblance to the spin move in Super Mario Galaxy. These controls originated in Mario Galaxy, so seeing them in modern games is a direct influence, therefore this also gets added to the list. I talked a lot about how Super Mario 64 pioneered the collectathon genre in my Super Mario 64 video, but that concept was actually modified heavily in Super Mario Galaxy. While Super Mario Sunshine had 8 to 9 stars per course, Galaxy implemented an average of 1 to 6 stars per level, allowing for much more diversity in its gameplay and themes. What was even more unique about the game was its use of power-ups. Sure, both 64 and Sunshine had power-ups, but I'm talking about traditional power-ups, like the Fire Flower and Invincibility Star. This was the first time these power-ups had ever been in a mainline 3D Mario game, and on top of that, it introduced the Ice Flower, a cult classic power-up that made its way into the new Super Mario Bros. Series of games. If you're looking for another impact, there's a big one right there. And finally, at the end of our journey, we have left the impact Super Mario Galaxy had on us as people. Now everyone reacts to things differently and holds different things in high regard, but when it comes to Super Mario Galaxy, one thing always sticks out: the immersiveness of the game. This is one of few games to include a cinematic story and visuals, and even characters with full-on backstories. Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Super Mario, had usually been against stories for the Mario franchise, leaving the heavily story-based stuff for his Legend of Zelda franchise. But for this game, he let up on his distaste, and allowed the creative team to make one of the most cinematic and gripping Mario games ever. That's why Super Mario Galaxy is the way it is. That's why it's so different when you compare it to other mainline Mario games. But it's not just the cinematics that immersed people into the game, for any game is spoiled if the gameplay itself doesn't hold up. I said before that both the controls and gameplay were revolutionary, well tailored for the overall game. Add that to some of the most unique and intuitive levels in the Super Mario series, and you got the recipe for an incredible experience. Just the way how you progress through the game is awe-inspiring. Slowly unlocking rooms in Rosalina's ship, getting closer and closer to the final showdown with Bowser. This game takes basically everything present in the Mario franchise and spins it in a way that makes it unforgettable and a blast to play through. There's no doubt why some people are emotionally attached to this game. When you grow up with the most atmospheric game in the Mario franchise, every other game you play after it seems like a downgrade at that point. Super Mario Galaxy really is a one-of-a-kind in the gaming culture, and it's for this reason why Nintendo and Illumination are making a cinematic movie adaptation of the game, because it's just the most emotionally stirring game they could possibly hope to make a movie about. There's no doubt that the Super Mario Galaxy movie will create a buzz in the Mario community, but that can all be attributed to the huge impact the game had on Mario fans. Yes, a lot of Super Mario Galaxy's influence is emotional, and nostalgia biases are things that do exist, but the game is universally loved by both critics and fans, nostalgics and newcomers. That is something basically every video game dreams of accomplishing. Most people who play the game get immersed into the incredible universe Nintendo's creative team imagined, and that's why I think that the impact this game has had on those who experience it is the biggest influence that Super Mario Galaxy can be attributed for. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed hearing about the incredible influence of Super Mario Galaxy, I'd recommend checking out my Super Mario 64 video that details the creation and influence of the game in less than 15 minutes. Hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll see you next time.